Joe! Joe の野郎。鬼姫が完全にぶっ潰しやがって。
Oh my god. Hello everyone, welcome to Joe Consumes Cinema. I'm your host, usually not a fan of New Year's resolutions, but I'm a fan of Rikishi's, and today we have Ashita no Joe, episode 40. So last episode was great. We finally are going to get the fight between Joe and Rikishi. Rikishi has made it official, announcing to the press that he's dropping down to bantamweight. He means to challenge Joe. And yeah, this is going to be awesome. Everybody's super hyped for it. The only people who are super reserved are Dangpei and Nishi at the moment. They are much more cautious. Joe is hyped. It's really, really cool to finally get to this moment. I think this episode is going to be mostly like a training camp, preparation type episode, and then we're going to get the fight. Either episode after this or episode after that one. So pretty damn soon, I think. The fact that Rikishi is dropping weight is a factor in the fight, and it's something to consider. I brought it up, a while back. The size difference between Rikishi and Joe was very evident to me even way back then. That, Rikishi is very much a natural lightweight. He looks huge. He's super lean, but he's very, very tall. He's got at least a foot on Joe. And then despite all those disadvantages, Joe still managed to hold his own against him, which makes, that accomplishment all the more impressive. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to the fight. But I recognize the fact that, we're really going to have to put in that prep work. So this could be, one episode training camp, special preparation, or it could be multiple episodes. I would think maybe one or two, but, maybe more than that. I am aware of, the bomb that's supposed to go off in episode 50. I think we're going to get Rikishi and Joe's fight before that, whatever it is. But yeah, this should be really cool, and I'm very, very eager to watch it. But before we begin, as always, remember to blank, blank, and blank. Still very much a small channel, so if you like, comment, share, subscribe that we can get, really helps out, really appreciate it. Patreon link down below. I'm really trying to push the Patreon this year, so if you could sign up, even just as a free member, you'd be doing me a ton of good. With that, let's get right to it. Sando Baguni Kao Mega Ake Tatake 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 Ashita wa Kitto Ashita wa Dochi da
力士よ、いよいよ対決の日は迫ったらしい。今度こそお互い恨みっこなしの命がけの勝負だぜ。
A man's world. Knocking that sandbag upward.
ところでなんだい、試合の日取りはいつだったよ、おっさん。
試合の日はおろか、また白木事務から正式な申し込みだって来ちゃいねえよ。
Really?
他人様が聞いたら試合なんかやる気がねえって口ぶりだ。そりゃ。
あ
あ。なんで俺と力士がやることがそんなにお気に召さないのかよ。
どちらが勝つにしてもだ。激しい二人の執念がぶつかり合うリングで流される血が一滴や二滴で済むはずはねえ。
Dangpei's worried there might be death involved.
力士君はフェザー級でチャンピオンになり、ジョーはバンタムでチャンピオンになる。何も二人が階級を飛び越えてまで実際に殴り合い、傷つけ合う必要がどこにあるんだ。全くお互いに大人げない話よの。
そういうことが大人げねえって言うんなら、俺は永久に大人になんかなりたがないぜ。永久にな。
So the reason that there's been no formal challenge is because he's having real trouble getting down to bantamweight. Second time seeing him in the sauna. He's not looking too good.
121ポンドです。
そう、まだ3ポンドオーバーね。
Jesus.
あなたのその骨格はフェザー級にしたってかなり無理なのよ。
Yeah, bantamweight is a pretty extreme cut.
食べ物や水分を極度に節制して、かろうじてフェザー級ギリギリのリミットを保ってきたけど、これ以上の減量は自殺行為以外の何者でもないわ。あの矢吹君のどこにそんな命をかけるほどの執念を燃やす必要があるの？
Only a fighter can determine if a fight has meaning. And once they get in that headspace, there's no dissuading them of it.
俺は奴に約束したんですよ。プロのリングで待っているとね。それに たとえ階級が違うにせよ、俺と引き分けたような男が同じ世界に生きてるってことに耐えられんのですよ。この力石徹という男は。要するにこいつは、言ってみりゃ男の世界のことです。
男の世界。
He really wants to eat, but he knows he can't. He's fucking shaking.
これを下げてくれ。
果物以外は出さんでくれと言ったろう。はあ、しかし力石君、わしが用意させたんだよ。それは君の体力を保つギリギリのカロリーだ。
分かってます。これ一ついただきます。
Single apple. I remember when Takamura was cutting weight for one of his fights and all he could eat was a single tomato. And then it got to the point where he literally couldn't eat anything because he was like a couple pounds off from making weight.
フェザー級にとどまる気にさえなれば、我々と一緒に楽しい食事ができるんだぞ。
ありがとうございます。だが俺は日本一の近代設備を誇る白木ジムの誘いを蹴り、橋の下のオンボロジムから血まみれでのし上がってきた男と戦うんです。
Yeah, Rikishi has had a lot of advantages in his career that Joe just hasn't, and it hasn't stopped him one bit. He's not only caught up to Rikishi, but, gotten to the point where he can openly challenge him. Rikishi's packing a bag. I think he's come to the decision that it's too nice here.
今夜からジムにこもって寝泊まりします。今夜限りこの豪華な白木亭ともお別れです。
Okay. It needs to be hard. He's so weakened from the cut.
力石さん、大丈夫ですか？
俺が中に入ったら外から鍵をかけてくれ。おい、頼んだぞ。ひょっとしてこの俺が誘惑に負けて夜中に水道の蛇口にかじりつかんようにするためさ。俺は矢吹に勝つ。
This is really, really extreme.
"そうして暗闇の中で青ざめてじっと耐えていることがあなたが言った男の世界だっていうの。行け荒野をおいら
奥さん。Okay, I took some time just to gather my thoughts. Episode 42, another really good one. So we see that Rikishi is really struggling to make the weight, and it's gotten to the point where, he can't eat anything for dinner, basically, and he just has to survive on, a single apple. And he takes it even a step further, leaves the mansion, and then goes to the gym and tells the other boxers there to lock him in the storeroom so that he won't have any access to water or food and, give in to that temptation. Rikishi was always very lean, and he had a very tall, big frame. He's 2 weight classes above Joe. So this is a very extreme weight cut, given all the circumstances. The fact that he was already very lean, and just to make featherweight, he was having to, strictly diet. So yeah, this is entering dangerous territory. An extreme weight cut runs a lot of risks. Dehydrating the brain before, taking punches is one of the worst things you can do. It's one of the reasons why, there are deaths in boxing. I would argue that if there wasn't weight cutting, we probably wouldn't have half the deaths that we've had, boxing, Muay Thai, all of that. The brain loses its resiliency. It puts a lot of strain on the kidneys. You can go into renal failure. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why you don't just want to arbitrarily cut water weight in order to, lose weight, let alone do so in preparation for a fight. So yeah, Rikishi is in very dangerous territory right now, but he has to do it because he just can't stomach the idea of, Joe getting the better of him. I mean, it kind of is that petty. He says it's a man's world, but he just can't abide this, trash-talking guy coming out of nowhere, challenging him, giving him a draw on his record, even though it wasn't official. It doesn't matter to him. And this guy just comes up from nothing, and, he's got to prove to himself that he's better than him. It's what nobody seems to get, but even Dangpei was talking about it, how both Joe and Rikishi are very successful to the point where Joe could easily be, bantamweight champion in like a few fights. Rikishi maybe even a little bit sooner in featherweight. And yeah, it kind of doesn't make sense to go this route with it, except for the fact that they have all this history and it's kind of like a petty rivalry in a way, but at the same time, I've talked about it before, but only a fighter can determine what has meaning and what doesn't have meaning in a fight. And both these fighters have come to the conclusion that this has meaning, so there's no talking them out of it. Like, this is gonna happen. I am really worried that Rikishi is so drained to the point where, it might affect the quality of the fight, where, he's probably gonna come out guns a-blazing trying to finish Joe off because he knows he only has, so much gas in the tank. And then at that point, he's like fish in a barrel. He's just, dead weight. And yeah, it's going to affect the quality of the fight, which I think is a little bit disappointing, but it does happen in the boxing world. So it's definitely fitting with everything I know about it. So it makes sense. They also seem to be emphasizing the point that it's wintertime, which makes the whole weight cutting experience a lot more difficult. It's really easy to get sick when you cut weight. You weaken the immune system. The fact that it's also, the beginning of winter, the dead of winter, it could be a real issue going forward. But yeah, based on the way things are happening, I think Rikishi's finally going to get the weight and then officially challenge, and then we're going to get like fight camp episodes. So I think it's more like set up, and then the fight rather than set up, then the fight. So yeah, like really good episode. Love this show. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got for now. So as always, thanks for watching and peace.